Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. The network is AFR Talk, the American Family Radio Talk Network. Dealing with some breaking news here in the state of New Jersey. The governor of New Jersey, Christie. Now, this is a guy, realize, he wants to be, if you're a Republican, if you're a conservative, he wants to be your presidential candidate in 2016. It's very clear that he's campaigning for the Oval Office. He wants to be the GOP nominee in 2016. Now, what Governor Christie was faced with over the last week was a decision on whether or not to sign into law a bill that forbids, prohibits, under the punishment of the state, under the threat of punishment from the state, prohibits any counselor in the state of New Jersey from helping a teenager overcome his unwanted same-sex attractions. Even if the child wants it, even if the parents are for it, the counselor is prohibited from doing that. Now, that's what the law, the bill that was sent to his desk, that's what it provided, and Governor Christie was faced with a decision whether to sign this thing or veto it. Today he signed it, and when he signed it with a statement that he believes that homosexuals are born that way and that homosexual behavior is not a sin, both of which stand in flagrant contradiction with his Catholic Church teachings. With us to help sort all this through and to give you an update on what's going to happen in response is Matt Staver. Matt Staver is the vice president at Liberty University. He's the dean and professor of law there and heads up Liberty Counsel. Matt, welcome back to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you being on point with us here. Help us break this down. What's your reaction? I want to talk about the legal action here in just a second and what you're going to be prepared to do, Liberty Counsel is. But just kind of break this down for us. You've been involved in the culture war for decades. You look at this law that prohibits counseling to teenagers to help them overcome unwanted same-sex attractions, no matter what the parents think, no matter what the child wants, even no matter what the counselor wants. Break that down for us. What's kind of at stake here? What's at risk here? What's wrong with this bill?
Well, you know, having been involved in this firsthand and knowing this issue backwards and forwards and reading the literature and having litigated this now out in California and seeing the arrogance of Christie's statements, it really questions his credibility on every other area because he's so arrogant on this, just like he is typically in his other comments, like he knows that this is the gospel truth and nothing else but the truth. First of all, there's no studies that support his claim that you're born this way. In fact, the twin studies, and they've been replicated multiple times, do not show that homosexuality is genetic and you're wired that way. Even those that promote homosexuality acknowledge that there's environmental factors. So he's completely wrong there. Secondly, he says that he's relying upon the experts and that counseling someone for change is harmful. Well, who's he relying upon as his so-called experts? Well, the so-called experts is a report that the legislature cited. It's the same one they cited out in California, the American Psychological Association 2009 Task Force report. And that report itself says that first, there's evidence of benefits for change, and secondly, there's no research whatsoever, zero, regarding minors. So there is zero evidence, and any evidence that there is regarding change shows that there, in fact, is evidence of benefit. So Christie is wrong across the board. Signing this law will harm children. It will prevent them from the kind of counseling that they need and they desperately seek, especially take the situation where some young boy is molested by the likes of a Jerry Sandusky and begins to have self-hate and deprecation and decides to start having these feelings that they don't want, like same-sex attractions, wanting to act out sexually like they've been abused, and wants to go to a counselor for help. Well, now in New Jersey, unless we get this law blocked, that young boy, those parents won't be able to get that kind of counseling. The counselors will only be able to tell that young boy, don't worry about it. It's natural, normal, and just go with the flow. It's just outrageous.
Well, you know, it really is, Matt, when you think about it, particularly when you bring up the example of Jerry Sandusky, who abused who knows how many young boys. And we know from the research that's been done that, you know, first sexual experiences can have a powerful imprinting effect on someone's sexual identity, someone's understanding of their sexuality. You know, a young boy that's growing into manhood, he's going through these adolescent years, and he has an invasive sexual experience like that, then it may create an enormous amount of confusion in his own mind about his own sexual identity. Why was I singled out? Is there something about me that's wrong? Enormous confusion. Parents understand it. They can be deeply concerned about what their child is thinking. They're going to want him to get help. They're going to want him to try to navigate this thicket of all these conflicting emotions. And I mean, Matt, I just think about it. Here we've got a Republican, a guy that is a Republican governor, saying, I am not going to allow that child to get help. I'm not going to allow the parents of that child to get help for their child. I mean, it's absolutely, galactically, spectacularly wrong.
Yeah, Christie is now putting himself between the counselor and the client, putting himself at the door of the counseling office and saying, sorry, children, sorry, parents, sorry, minors, you cannot get this kind of counseling. I don't care whether you have been getting this counseling and it's been helping you. You got to stop. And I don't care whether you like this counseling or seek this counseling. In fact, one of our clients in this case, Tara King, she is a counselor, and she was engaged in the lesbian lifestyle. She went to counselors and said she was told, oh, just get used to it. You're a lesbian. This is how you're going to be. You're born this way. And she just did not accept that. And because of her Christian faith, she ultimately came to the point where she just said, I want to align my values as my priority, not these lesbian activities. And so she left her girlfriend, sought counseling that actually helped her, and now she's helping people go through the same kind of thing that she was once trapped in. What Christie is doing is forcing people to doom their lives with no hope, and that's just unconscionable.
You know, and I'm looking at the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association website. So this is a site that's run by gays, it's run by lesbians, the medical association, their medical association website, and it lists at least 10 things that gays, and they have a similar page for lesbians, but 10 things that gays ought to talk over with their healthcare provider, listing the particular health risks that are associated with the homosexual lifestyle. You've got substance abuse and alcohol abuse. You have depression and anxiety, STDs. Obviously, you have HIV/AIDS. Gay men use tobacco at a much higher rate than straight men. So in other words, you've got this host of very alarming health risks are associated with homosexual behavior. Any parent that loves a teenage child is not going to want to see them experience these increased health risks, and now you got a governor saying, no, you can't do it. So it seems to me, I want to talk about the legal implications here in just a second, Matt, but it seems to me that we've got a serious violation of parental rights here.
Oh, we have a serious violation of parental rights. Take, for example, the parents that have their children already in counseling. And we have a situation like this in California, for example, where the parents are engaged in counseling with a counselor who's specialized in this area and is helping the young boy. That young boy now is no longer having this self-hatred, is able to interact with his peers better, with his parents better. His anxiety levels have gone down. Now what you're saying here is that you must stop that counseling. Even though it's helping you and this is what you want and it's actually benefiting you, you got to stop it. And the next day when you come in for your next appointment, the counselor is going to have to say, you know, we can't talk about this change anymore. There is no hope for change. You've got to accept your homosexuality. Let's talk about not your homosexual sexual attractions that you've now been able to control and move beyond, but let's now talk about your religious values. Oh, it's your religious values and your moral values that conflict. Well, we need to change those values. That's not what the client wants. But no, the counselor has to say, no, that's what we have to do. We've got to change your religious values. That's what this law forces people to do, and this is what Christie signed into law.
Now, let me ask you about counselors for a second. You got the First Amendment. First Amendment has a list of protections for every American citizen. They have those rights because they are American citizens, not for any other reasons. God gave those rights. Government's job is to protect them. How does this bill that Governor Christie has signed into law, how does it impinge on the constitutional rights, the First Amendment rights of counselors?
Well, it's the worst kind of infringement because it's viewpoint discrimination, meaning, for example, the content of something might be the heads and tails side of a quarter. So the quarter would be the content, or politics would be Republican would be one viewpoint and Democrat might be another viewpoint. If you restrict the viewpoint, if you allow the subject matter, say politics, to be discussed, but only from a Democratic point of view, that is the most egregious violation. And that's what you have here. You got homosexuality. The subject matter is allowed to be discussed, but only one viewpoint on that. the viewpoint that it's good, natural, and normal. But the viewpoint that you can change or that it is actually harmful is not permitted. Even though you've got, for example, take this situation. You've got someone who's actually engaging in same-sex sexual behavior, and they've gone to the CDC website, which is not a bastion of conservatism. It's a government-run website, the Center for Disease Control, and they read on there all of the health risk of homosexual behavior, and there's a lot of them. Some of those that you've mentioned already from this gay and lesbian medical website, and they say, I don't want to engage in this anymore. I want to stop it. I want to change it. And by the way, my religious and moral values conflict with this too. Can you help me? And the counselor will have to say, no, I can't help you. You just got to go with the flow. It's natural and normal. There's nothing wrong with it.
And it strikes me too, Matt, and I want to get quickly here to what you are going to do about this. Liberty Counsel, well, let's go right to that. Liberty Counsel has been on the front line of the culture war since its founding. So tell us what Liberty Counsel, Matt Staver, what you guys are prepared to do to stand against this trampling really on the health of teenagers, parental rights, and even the rights of professional counselors. What's Liberty Counsel going to step into the breach to do here?
Well, we're filing suit later this week. We've been working for the last several weeks on this particular case. Once it was passed by the Senate and the House, and then it was waiting for Governor Christie to sign or veto it. We were hoping he would do the right thing and veto it. But we are almost ready to go. We are very close, and so we're finishing the final touches on this, and within the next day or so, we will be in federal court to ask this court to block this law. This is a dangerous law. Those children and parents that are currently in counseling right now, today, that were able to see their counselor last Friday even to get change counsel, they won't be able to get that counsel anymore. It'll actually be a 180-degree reversal.
It's a striking.
Imagine how confusing that would be.
Yeah, it's a striking thing too, Matt. Nicholas Cummings was a former president of the American Psychological Association, the one that issued the report that Governor Christie relying on. And Nicholas Cummings himself, a past president of the APA, says, "Look, I have seen people changed through reparative therapy. It does work if the individual is motivated to get the right help. They can redirect their sexual energies." Last comment, 15 seconds.
Well, we're going to fight this, and I think we'll ultimately win. I think it really underscores the problems that we have with the New Jersey legislature, but particularly Chris Christie, who is speaking out of something that he has no clue the impact, and this will certainly harm children if it's not stopped.
Our guest, Matt Staver, Vice President of Liberty University and Dean and Professor of the School of Law there. Thanks, Matt. God bless you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Back in 2.